Today's date is February 14th, 2024. This is Luciana Spraker representing the City of Savannah's Municipal Archives. I'm interviewing Mr. Benjamin Polote Sr. for the Savannah Community Memory Project, and we are conducting this interview at his office. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
So let's start by having you, even though I just said it, you say your full name and spell your last name, please.
My name is Benjamin R. Polote Sr. That's spelled P-O-L-O-T-E, Polote.
Great. And what neighborhood are we going to be talking about today?
We're going to be talking about Liberty City, where I presently reside.
Okay. Let's start with some background. When were you born?
I was born 1942, December the 5th, 1942.
Okay, and where were you born?
Chatham County, Savannah, Georgia, Yamacraw Village, downtown.
Were you born in the village, or?
I was born in the house, in the village.
Okay, great. So let's talk a little bit about your parents. What were their names?
My mother's name was Anna Lou Polote, maiden name Chandler, from Burke County. My father was Raymond Polote Sr.
Okay, was he from
He
Savannah?
was born in Savannah, Chatham County.
How did your mother get to Savannah?
I have no idea.
Okay. Do you know when they got married?
No, not the date they got married.
Okay. What did your parents do to earn a living?
My father worked at a company called Motor Supply Company on West Broad Street. It was located around West Broad and Congress Street. It was an automobile supply company, and he was a truck driver, a supplier, who carried supplies to Blackshear, Georgia, Waycross, Georgia, and Jessup, Georgia, for that particular company. My mother was a hairdresser by trade. So as we lived in Yamacraw Village for quite some years before we moved into Garden City, that's what we did.
Well, so before we start talking about Liberty City, let's talk a little bit about Yamacraw. How old were you when you left Yamacraw Village?
I was approximately 10 years old.
So what are some of the childhood memories you have of being in Yamacraw Village?
Everything, just working together and with the children that was there, and enjoying the outdoor life, enjoying the real sports of life then, I guess, back 1950 and in the 40s, we didn't have internet and stuff, but we had automobile tires to enjoy ourselves with.
Right.
And different things like that. So I really enjoyed it then. And then I started to work very early, right after leaving Yamacraw Village, I started to work.
Okay, so after Yamacraw, you guys went to Garden City?
We went to Garden City. We lived at 6th Street, Garden City, 4020 6th Street, Garden City. And I guess we moved there around 1951, 52.
Okay.
And my mother opened a beauty salon during that time.
Do you remember what the name of that salon was?
No, I do not. And right after then, I guess 4 years after that, all of our residents and everything got burned out. We had a fire, and we lost everything.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, my father brought in a trailer, a container like, and we lived in that for a while.
Wow.
For quite some time. But my father was very quickly to adapt to the situation. I had a wonderful, wonderful father. He just wasn't with me long enough, because he passed away, I think, at the age of about 44.
Mm-hmm.
But I was 16 and in high school at the time when he passed. But I had a great, great father.
How many siblings did you have?
It's a total of 5 of us. And the beautiful thing is about it, it's 5 of us, and 4 of us are in our 80s even now, and that's rare. We're from 81, that's me, to 88, my older brother, and I have a younger brother that's about 65.
So,
But all of us are living.
yeah. So when your father died and you're still young and at home,
Oh, yeah.
talk about your mother and how she,
Well, my
transitioned.
mom was always very active with raising us along with my father. So she didn't have to step up. She just kept up. And all of us had that work attitude. And so I was in high school, but at that time I was also working. I worked at a drugstore over by Yamancraw Village, was called Duke's Drugstore. Was the first, well, it was the second job that I had, and I went to work there. I think I was about 12, but I was living in Garden City and riding a bike from Garden City into town to work at the drugstore, and then riding back home at night.
Okay. So, you mentioned being in high school. Tell me what schools you went to as you grew up.
I went to Woodville up until around the fourth grade, and then I went to St. Anthony Catholic School, I think in the fourth, until the ninth, and I went to St. Pius 10th High School, for which I came out there, I think in 1961.
Was your family Catholic?
No, only my self. My mother and self was not Catholic.
So when did you move with your family at some point to Liberty City, or did that come later in life?
No, I was married when I moved to Liberty City.
Okay.
Yeah, I lived in on Rosenau Hill, yeah, until I got married, and then kind of shortly after I got married, years later, I moved into Liberty City. I was on Rosenau Hill when I got married in 1962, and I was still working at the drugstore, and then I left the drugstore and I went as a merchant seaman, traveling around on the ship. And then when I came back from that, I went back to the drugstore, and by the grace of God, they were hiring people out at a chemical plant here called American Cyanamide. And I took the test out there and scored extremely high, and which I was very grateful to do so. Matter of fact, they didn't even believe I scored as much as I did, so they had me come and take the test again. And they had 3 jobs open. One was working in the cleanup gang, one was packing titanium, and one was in a lab. And this was in about 1964, 65. And after I took the second test, they offered me a job in the cleanup. And I told them I didn't want that. What was the other 2 jobs? And they told me about the other 2 jobs. And I asked them, did they do training in the lab? And they said yes, but it was 1962. And the lab probably had, shift-wise, probably a good 90 people who none of them looked like me. And they said they weren't comfortable with me going into that. They weren't, and I told them I was. And so they tried it. And 5 years later, I left there up for superintendent of a crew of 60 people. So it worked out great for me. And during that time that I was there, I met a gentleman that was in the construction business, and I started working with him doing shift work. Since I was doing shift work, it gave me time to work with him. And I did that for quite some time, and then I went off with the support of my family. I started the construction business, and so from there we launched a business that's been successfully now for 59 years.
So what? Help me out with the math.
Well, I'm in the construction business itself, we started there about 1965, I think. I started construction. And we started that with just doing additions to houses and closing up. Then a lot of people had carports at their house. And so we closed up carports and turned it into a little, another bedroom, another spare entertainment room. And from that we grew into the general contracting. I remember the city had a program here. I don't know if it was Model Cities or what, but it was in the early 70s, and we bid competitively and won like a $50-some thousand contract to renovate the project at 37th and Abercorn Street. I think it was the Sisters of the Poor or something facility. And we won that project and successfully renovated it for the city. And that kind of gave us our real start in the commercial side of the house. And from that we just grew.
So I want to back up. I have a couple questions for things you said. And I want to start with when in 1962 you married your wife. What's her name?
Greta, Gretta, Greta Polote.
Okay. And so going to when you were a merchant seaman, how did you get into that? And just tell us a little bit about that, you know, what ports you visited,
well,
things like that.
I was in high school and riding the bus for a while back and forth. I saw a lot of people always on the corner of Price in Broughton Street. That struck my interest, what was going on there. And so I looked into it to find out that that's where people were shipping out big time jobs. And then I was fortunate enough to meet a gentleman in Liberty City when I started looking to buy land out there. That was a merchant seaman as well. And
what was his name?
Mr. Brown. And it excited me about it. And so as soon as I came out of well, this was after I was already in then, because I was in high school when I started applying to become a merchant seaman. And I think I got my first assignment. I got married in '62, and I believe my first assignment was like the latter part of '63. I was married about a year and a half, 2 years. And so I went kind of all over the place for a while. Most of mine was around South Africa and stuff. So it was Pioneer Tide was the first ship that I went out on. That was the name of it, Pioneer Tide. And this was probably 1963 there. And when I came back, I went back to work to the drugstore.
So you mentioned that you first got your start in a construction business with a man on shift work. Do you remember what his name is that you can share with us?
Yeah, his name was Carter. Yeah, Carter. He did a lot of painting work around town, and I started working with him.
And then for the record, you know, you talked about the beginning of your business. What is your business name?
We are in the general contracting business. We are commercial builders is what we do.
Well, I mean,
and it's a family-owned business. The name of the company is the Polote Corporation. The Polote Corporation.
And as a family business, who in the family works with you?
Yeah, my son and my daughter really hands the bulk of the business now. I'm kind of semi-retired from it. My son runs the Dallas office, and by the grace of God, we're in the third generation. My grandson runs the Florida district as such, and my daughter does a lot of the operations here.
What are their names?
My oldest daughter is named Denise Polote Kelly, and then I have a young daughter. Her name is Cheryl Polote Williamson. She's a motivation speaker and a writer, and she produces a magazine once a quarter. She's based out of Dallas.
Okay, so let's turn our attention a little bit to Liberty City. What year did you buy property in Liberty City?
I believe I bought property in Liberty City in around 1968, 69.
Did you buy a house or did you buy a lot and then
No,
you built?
I bought property. My wife and I had been married then for some time, probably like 7 or 8 years or so, and we decided we were going to leave Rosenau Hill, and we started looking for property. I have a wife that's been very, very supportive of me for the last, oh God, 61 years now that we've been married, and so she's always been very supportive of the things that I wanted to do, and I've been very supportive of her. And so we started looking places that we thought we would like to live, and Liberty City was one of those. And so we went out to Liberty City, and I bought several pieces of property scattered around through Liberty City, and then we decided to build on one of the sites that we bought.
What was it about Liberty City that attracted you compared to other neighborhoods?
Liberty City seems like it had a lot of growth, and it had a lot of family-owned houses there. It was not a big rental place as such. It was more people owned their own residence there, and it was had a lot of potentials to it.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about some of the people in Liberty City. Who are some important leaders or people that we should know about?
Well, if there, to me, it would be like Coach Turner would be one of those people in the family you should know about. If she was not in the room, I would say Donna Meyer's father and mother is a family that you would really, really want to know about. Dr. Estella Shabazz would be, her family would be folks that you would really, because they were folks who I think was more of the pillar of the community. Mr. Johnny Paul is dead now, and that's the Johnson's father and their family. His mother is still living, but the father is passed. Those would be people that did a lot in the community. Mr. Jones, who used to serve on city council. Then there were, the young lady used to be with the school board. I can't think of her name right now, but she was very, very active within the area there. Now, when we moved into Liberty City, I would want to think that it was probably 60% less dense than what it is now. It has grown quite a bit since we were there. When we were there, there was, I think the only paved street was Liberty Parkway, but there were no paved streets, no sidewalks, none of that was there, you know, in the 60s. And we had the fortune to buy a whole block of land on Vassar Street, and we developed that out and sold, I think I got 4 or 5 houses on that particular street. One of the young people who I built a house and sold it to did a lot for the community that happened not to be living now, is Benjamin, Ulysses Benjamin. He did a lot for kids at beat school and everything else, but he passed much too soon. Yeah, Liberty City has always been, I guess, ahead of its time in having a community center. And that brought people together over the years. And I've forgotten when the first one was built, but out of that, people began to work close together. They started making wishes of things that they wanted, and they started making demands from the elected officials, things that they must have. And so that's how it grew to, where it is right now, to be a flourishing community as such.
Is there one or two people that you think were really significant in pushing for those improvements?
Mr. Johnny Paul was, and several people there now still. One gentleman named William Law, and Mr. Brown, and there's the Campbells. Certain people are just committed to the center and always have been, and not just to the center, but to the community. They are the people who care about the way the community look. They'll spend their Saturdays cleaning up and stuff like that, and we have a lot of men around there that does that quite a bit.
You mentioned Coach Turner. I'm assuming he got the name Coach because he worked with the children in sports?
Well, no, he was a big coach at Woodville Tompkins, back in the day. Okay. And they won a lot of games and everything, and people respected him quite well.
Okay. I want to back up and ask you, you gave us the names of your two daughters. Let's get on there your son's name as well.
Yeah, my son's name is Benjamin Polote Jr. And he has always been active in the company. He's never had work for anybody else but the company. So he's really the real backbone of the company right now. All of the operations that goes on is really around him and where he takes it to the next level.
Okay. All right, so getting back to the neighborhood, sometimes in neighborhoods, a lot of people work at a specific company or in a specific trade or profession. Was that the case in Liberty City?
I think Liberty City, a lot of the people who lived in that neighborhood worked to places like Union Camp, Savannah, Sugar Refinery, and hospitals, and a lot worked for the city. Yes, it was always that level of income of a neighborhood. People really had steady jobs, and a lot of people who worked for the longshoremen's lived in that area, and I think some of them still do. Quite a number of them still do, I know.
Okay. So I had a question about community resources supporting the neighborhood, but I think you might have hit on that with the community center. What about other maybe churches or organizations that are important to Liberty City?
Well, there's not a lot of churches in Liberty City. There's two that's been sort of an anchor around on ACL Boulevard that came in over the years. But during the early years, there were, not that I recall, there's not a basic church that I would say that was the anchor of Liberty City.
Mm-hmm. Would that be true of businesses? Were there businesses located in the neighborhood?
One or two stores, one or two little corner stores, barbershops, yes. There were barbershops in Liberty City and one or two corner stores, but there wasn't any other businesses. I think some folks was doing hair and some folks was seamstresses as such, but that was the end. Liberty City was never a large community of businesses.
So your children grew up in Liberty City then mostly, right?
Yes.
What were at that time, what were children doing in the neighborhood for fun? What were some of the activities for the youth?
Well, for the girls, there were always visiting each other, and there were what they call jump rope back in the day. They were jumping rope and stuff like that. And for the boys, there were always the chasing behind, not the girls so much, but behind tires. One of the big things then was tires, and back in that day there were also roller skating. Kids did a lot of roller skating, and parents did a lot of roller skating with them. So that was some of the big things going on in the day, and for activities that was during the time that the fair was around, at least once or twice a year, and girls was into home ec classes and stuff like that. So they were always occupied, and there was always sports around. Girls played a lot of basketball and got into things of that nature during that time frame.
Was there, I know some of the communities in Savannah had their own little teams of youngsters,
Yes.
playing sports.
Yeah,
Was there a name?
Yeah, Liberty City has had several football teams, I'm sure. I have sponsored for quite some time, but I don't think it was a Liberty City team called the Vikings. And it was more Forsyth Park team in Daffin Park, the Vikings. But Liberty City has always had a lot of activities going on as well. I think they still have a football team in Liberty City, I'm not sure.
Okay. Tell me just a little bit about the neighborhoods that surround Liberty City.
Well, from Liberty City, if you go to Styles Avenue, you then go into Tatumville from Liberty City, which is bordered by Durin, and then northern part towards Liberty City, and then there is another smaller area directly across 17. I had forgotten what's the name of the area over there, and then Liberty City really runs parallel to 17 all the way up towards Bel Air, and then Cloverdale, and then that area.
Okay. So just tell me, what are some of your favorite memories of living in Liberty City?
Favorite memories of living in Liberty City was, I think most of all, as I look back, was having a safe community to return home in the evening after work. Enjoying the neighbors that live very close to me, enjoying those that live very close. A pleasure of spending time with my wife and my kids there in the neighborhood and feeling safe in the neighborhood. And I did quite a bit of traveling, so it was very confident to me to be able to travel and not worry about my wife and the kids back home. So that really occupied my time, and I have worked very hard all my life. So, I was building houses and stuff during that time, and it took me a lot. And then as we grew the business, the commercial side of the business, we didn't just grow here. Matter of fact, we did less here than any place. We grew in other places, and I had to travel a lot. So, and it was always a joy and a pleasure to return to Liberty City, so much that I'm still there presently.
Great. You've mentioned a little bit about paved streets, but how else have you seen Liberty City change since you've moved there? You mentioned density.
I've not seen Liberty City change that much. I've seen a heavy density there, and I've seen paved streets. I've seen, I guess, outwardly, I've seen less athletic places for kids to enjoy. I've seen less, not more. Back in the day, there were parks and basketball racks and everything that kids were spending a lot of time on. I don't see that now. I see kids spending more time gathering on the back of each other's cars parked in the streets than today, which I don't think is very, very good at the present time. And that's just me now. I'm just one person that live out there. So I've not seen everything go for the best of Liberty City. Growth, yes. but not necessarily growing in the right directions that's best for the younger people that's there now presently. Okay, I do not see the social places that young people have together and be social and learn about life as I think it should be. And I'm not blaming anybody for it. I'm telling you, I don't see it. You ask me, and I'm telling you, kids just don't spend the time respecting and knowing each other because they don't have the outlet that would bring them together to do that. So there's room. I would end that with saying there's rooms for improvement in the place where I reside every night.
So those are my main questions, but I'd like to just know if there's anything else you want to share with us about either Liberty City or Savannah, certain people. Open floor.
Well, I think a lot of people in Liberty City that has sacrificed a lot for Liberty City, it's just moved on because of age and death, which will eventually take us all. But I've seen a lot of committed people to Liberty City of its growth. And there's a lot of people who sacrifice a lot for Liberty City right now. I get a chance to come by the center on 52nd Street, and very seldom I come by there that it's not used. I mean, it's absolutely, sometimes I wonder what is going on there. There's so many cars there, so people do use the center quite frequently and stuff. I just think overall Liberty City has produced some very good, capable young people from that area, and will continue to produce good people from that area.
Do you see it as a neighborhood that's sort of generational, where a generation goes away maybe to get education and then it's coming back, so we're having multi-generations in the neighborhood?
I don't see a comeback presently. I don't see people who have left there is not moving back there, not that I see. Liberty City is becoming more of a rental area now than a homeowner's area, that I can tell. And that's me just observing and looking from the outside. It's becoming more of a 10-year, 15-year transit community, whereby before it was grounded, so what can make that change, I don't have the answer, but what's there now is what I'm accountable for. I mean, I see activities on my street every week, and I would think that on just the block that I live in, 60% of it now it has to be rental property and rental turnover.
Okay. Anything else you want to talk about?
That would be it.
Okay.
That would be it. I thank you for your time. Thank you for your interview.
Well, I thank you for sharing your memories and your experiences with us. We
Sure.
appreciate it very much.